Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first ever Quiet Library session. My name's Alex. The date is November 16th, 2019, and I'm here with Trey Brockman of Fields and...
Heck yeah, stoked to be here.
How's it going today, man?
Oh, super good. I got a cold this week,
Great.
so just kind of coming back from that. It's a really, really good time. I sound way worse than I feel, so we'll just preface it with that, but feeling good.
Yeah, that's great timing to get a cold right before a performance.
I know, yeah. And like I was running through the set, and I was like, well, we're going to see if I can hit these notes, but it should be good.
I think it's going to be great. You know, we were talking earlier, there's the episode of Friends where Phoebe gets a cold and she's like the greatest singer alive, so.
Yeah, that's probably where I'm at this point. I love it.
Right. You already were the greatest, and now it's like...
Even better, yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I just want to get to know a little more about you. Where are you from?
Yeah, so I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, so Midwesterners out there. Grew up there. I went to high school and a year of community college there, and then spent 5 years in Greenville, Illinois, which is a little tiny town of like 5,000 people. Did college there and grad school, and then just decided to change the pace up a little bit and head out to Bellingham. So here we are.
Interesting. What that's like, you kind of been all over the place. Like, what drew you up here?
Yeah. Honestly, so it's kind of funny, but through college, I was kind of in this relationship, and like kind of all the plans that I had, for like post college or post grad school, were kind of around that relationship. And so I was like, okay, like I'll stick around the Midwest. It'll be cool, whatever. So that ended like pretty early in the year. And I was like, okay, well, I want to change of pace. And I've always wanted to live in the PNW. I've been to Seattle a couple times and all that. So, I mean, honestly, one of my friends from college moved out here after we finished our undergrad. And he was like, dude, like, you got to come try Bellingham. Like, you'd love it. So kind of as I finished up that season of life, I was like, maybe it's worth a shot. So packed up my little Subaru and didn't look back. So, yeah.
Yeah, got a real change of scenery.
Yeah. Oh, man, yeah. I love it.
So how long have you been here then?
I got here at the end of July of 2019. Okay. So
wow.
Yeah. Pretty fresh.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
Wow. So have you been doing music like that whole time? You're doing music in college and things like that as well?
Yeah. So my undergrad, I studied audio engineering. So it was kind of like a music production degree. So it was like studio work, and I wasn't as much into like the live audio thing, but yeah, definitely like kind of crafting audio around, a specific song or specific artist. That's kind of where I fell in love with like the process. So yeah.
Yeah, it's audio production is like, it's awesome because it's kind of like an endless pursuit. Like I feel like nothing's ever perfect, so you can always like keep working. But it's also in the same way can kind of make you insane.
True.
Trying to get something like you hear something in your head and you just can't get it out sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, that's the truth. I was actually talking to another artist from out here, Van Andrew, if you like are familiar with him at all. But we were talking a little bit about just like the process and if you have a song and a vision for a song, just kind of like watching that come to life. And I was kind of like, I am pretty much never done working on a song, but I'm trying to find that balance of like saying, okay, like this is good enough to like put out, So it's just kind of funny.
Right.
So,
yeah. Like what's that saying? Like great art is never finished; it's only abandoned, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then it's that the people that stick with it, they can come back to it and say, okay, like I'm gonna unveil this now. That those are the ones that really become great.
Yeah. As an artist, it seems like you kind of have to be okay with things being imperfect.
Yeah, and it's really interesting too because I've got a couple different projects that I do music and put music out under, and this one, Fields and, is it's very focused on like the raw and the imperfect. So like even in the mixing process, I try to be as minimal as possible, and I still like want to make things sound good, but definitely want to show the realness of the emotion and the music and the performance and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. So you're part of more than one project then?
Yeah. So Field and started about a year ago. I think, coming up on like a 1 year of the first little record that I put out for that. But I also have like an alternative rock pop kind of project. And that's like the kind of the really polished, like a lot of synthesizers and loud guitars. And so I've toured with that one a bunch. But yeah, Fields End is like, it's a nice kind of break from that, all the glam. So,
Yeah. I think, as a musician, it's like valuable to have more than one outlet, to get different sides of your like creative, I don't know, self out, so to speak.
Yeah. It's huge.
Yeah. So you mentioned touring. What's that like?
Oh man. I'm trying to even think. There was last summer I was on the road for like a month and a half straight.
Wow.
So I did the East Coast twice and the Midwest once. And it's just like, it's crazy. I mean, that's where a lot of songs were written, especially for Fields End, because it was like, I was kind of stripping back a lot of the kind of the showiness. And I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to write what I'm feeling at this point. So that's where kind of the idea for Fields End came to life, was like on the road. But yeah, it's definitely hard. I also was trying to do a master's degree online.
Same time.
And so yeah, so I actually failed a class while on tour because I didn't have consistent internet enough to like turn in assignments. So yeah, so kind of funny. But it's something to look back on and just could be kind of like, you know what, it was worth it. So yeah, no, it was awesome. Yeah, I've met so many good friends and good musicians and amazing people just from touring. I actually got a message yesterday from somebody in Virginia that I haven't talked to in a long time, and they were like, hey, like, you stayed at our house, like, you just came to mind, like, how are you doing? And it's those kind of like connections that are very real that you make, because yeah, when you're like just at a certain city for, a night, like you kind of get to know people on a realer level pretty quick. So yeah.
Were you out on your own?
So I was actually opening for another band for half of that summer, and then kind of came back to the Midwest, grabbed the rest of the band, and then we headed back out on the road. So, so it was a good time for sure. But yeah,
it seems like it was kind of, or it would be kind of uncomfortable to just be out there in new places like every single night, meeting new people.
Yeah, I think for me, like the weirdest thing was not being able to experience the cities that we were in, because you're pretty much, if you're driving, 6 to 12 hours a day, and then you're playing a show, and then you're immediately leaving, like all you see is the venue and maybe like half the city block that you're on or whatever. So it's like it was tough, because I was like, oh, like I've technically been to all these cool places, but I like didn't experience any of the cool things at those places. So it definitely was like, yeah, it was hard. It like, I don't know, it kind of takes a toll, but also the people that you're experiencing it with definitely make it worth it. So yeah.
I don't think anyone looks back on when they're 16 was like, damn, I wish I didn't go on tour.
Yeah, no,
I wish
exactly.
I didn't go around the country and play music for people.
Right, exactly. And that was kind of the thing. Like, I remember the first time leaving, I was taking a Greyhound from St. Louis to Memphis to meet the band that I was opening for, and it was like an overnight bus ride on the 4th of July, and I was like, this is nuts. Like, I don't even know what is going to happen, like whatever. But I was like, I'm going to look back and be like, this is like one of those nights I'm going to remember, So, so it's just crazy, but that's the way it works out.
Were there like fireworks going off while you were driving?
Yeah, no, it was like super unreal. I was like, what is happening right now? It was crazy.
The entire country was sending you off.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Cool. So, since you've kind of been all over the place or lived in a bunch of different places, like, is there any like marked differences between the music scene in the Midwest and over here?
Yeah. So I also lived in Nashville for a little bit, which is like Music City. So there it's very like, it's hard, first of all, because there are literally thousands of people trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do. And so, yeah, everybody kind of is, willing to trample on people a little bit if it helps them get places. Great city though, a lot of great people there. The Midwest is definitely different. There's not as much collaboration, I feel like. And there's not a lot of like industry staples in the Midwest, I feel like. So it's hard, especially in St. Louis where I grew up. I mean, like, you have amazing local bands, but everybody sounds like somebody else, and nobody really knows how to get to the next step. And so, yeah, I mean, I've heard it said that St. Louis is kind of a third-tier city as far as like venues and establishments go. So a lot of tours won't even stop there,
Oh man.
just because it's so small. And yeah, that's just kind of the way it goes. But out here, it definitely like it feels very collaborative. Everybody's very supportive of one another. The art that is going on is super high quality and very real. I think that people are generally more in tune with what they're feeling and more honest, and they respect other people that are feeling the same thing. So yeah.
Yeah. I noticed the same thing moving up here as well. About just the people here were very, I guess, open. Except, like they wanted to meet new people and they wanted to have a conversation with you, kind of thing. It's interesting to hear you say that the music scene, especially like I said, you said Nashville was like really competitive, and I feel like here it's not really like that.
Yeah.
You know, especially like in a place like the Alternative Library, like anyone who wants to play like really can come and put on a set. I think that's like really valuable for a music scene to have.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah. Did you know much about the music scene up here before you moved?
No, I pretty much knew nothing.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I was just kind of like, I love the mountains, and I hope to be inspired and maybe keep writing some songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's plenty of inspiration in that. Yeah. So, what kind of music did you listen to like growing up?
Oh, man. So it started really with like 80s rock. So like Van Halen was a big one when I was a kid. My parents were like showing me all that stuff, and I remember like listening to it on cassette tape for like hours at a time. Super funny. Yeah, so love 80s music. And then I think the first album that I listened to that made me just decide, okay, I want to do music for the rest of my life was Switchfoot's The Beautiful Letdown. Yeah, so it came out like 2003. And I remember the opening track, like 5 seconds in, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is incredible. It's a song called Meant to Live. So yeah, I was just like, wow, this is like such good music. The writing and the production, like everything about it, I was just like, oh man, this is so cool. So yeah.
How old were you then?
Oh man, I'm trying to think. The first time I heard it, I was probably 9 or 10.
Okay, so
Yeah.
pretty early.
Yeah.
I think most people who end up doing music, I think like either have it in their family or it's with them when they're like very young.
Yeah, and it's weird. My family is not musical at all. Like can't hold a tune, can't keep a beat. It's wild. So yeah, I mean, and part of that too is that I was adopted. So like it's just not in the genes, but that's the way it goes. So yeah.
So was there music in the house? Like, or did your family listen to a lot of music? Or?
Yeah, I mean, they were very into kind of contemporary Christian music as well, and so yeah, there was a lot of like CCM, like super poppy kind of stuff that I wasn't into as much, but yeah, I was kind of a rock and roll fan from a younger age. I will say too, like jazz was a huge thing.
Wow.
So when I was like 3 or 4, there was a show called George Shrinks. And the theme song was this like real jazzy, like minor chord progression type thing. And I remember like just loving that because there was so much like emotion just in the music, which was super weird because it was a cartoon. And so I figured out how to play it on the piano when I was 4.
Oh wow!
And my mom was like, "Hey, do you want piano lessons?" And I was like, "Heck yeah!" So, yeah, so that's kind of how I got started playing and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, looking back on it, I was just like, yeah, that's kind of weird, but it's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I think it's also really cool that like your parents, or I guess your adopted parents, like recognized that and like allowed you to like pursue it, or I guess even had the means to let you pursue it. You know?
Yeah. No, I'm super thankful for that. Yeah, they're very supportive, still are. But yeah, definitely were super stoked when I took a liking to it, and
that's awesome.
We got an old spinet piano from my great grandma, and that's kind of what I learned everything on. So yeah.
Dang. So you started on piano, moved on to guitar.
Yeah. So I took piano lessons for I don't even know how many years, but yeah, and then I was like, guitar is kind of the one instrument that a lot of music revolves around, especially in rock and roll and folk and things like that. And so yeah, I tried to take guitar lessons and I couldn't stick with like the very technical stuff, and so I gave up after like 2 weeks. And then I tried like different teachers throughout like the course of a year. I was like, man, I like really want to learn, but I just like couldn't do it. So I just like taught myself really, random stuff. Like I don't consider myself a guitar player at all.
Really?
I just know some chords and things. So yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, you were playing a little bit before we started filming, and I was like, "Yeah, this man can Travis pick. Like, that
Oh
sounds
man,
good."
well, thank you.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, that's awesome that you're self-taught. That's really impressive.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Um, so what made you want to play guitar? Was it like listening to all that rock and roll kind of stuff growing
I
up?
think so. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the bands that I was into, like their front man was, he's like the singer and the rhythm guitar player. And then like definitely as I moved into more like actual performing and stuff, I hated being stuck behind a piano because you can't move around as much, and like I feel like you're blocking off, the connection between you and whoever's listening.
Yeah.
And so I loved, kind of the mobility of a guitar, which is honestly a big reason that I keep trying to get better, because like the more that I can stick to that, the more I can interact with folks on the other side. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to think about actually playing anymore. You can just sort of be in the moment with the
Yeah,
crowd sort of
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow. Okay. Well, I feel pretty good. I have a couple just like random questions that I wanted to ask you real
Sweet,
quick.
yeah.
So your name is Fields and I was wondering if there's any significance to the ampersand and what that means.
Yeah. Actually, there kind of is. I mean, the name as a whole just kind of very randomly happened. I had all these songs that were written for it from that time of being on the road and stuff.
Okay.
And I knew that I wanted it to be very organic and very raw and real. And so I just kind of sent out some feelers to a bunch of people like, hey, like, what does this make you think of? And somebody came up with the name And Fields. So I kind of just like blank And Fields. And I was like, that's kind of cool. But like, it's a little bit too out there. Like, I don't know if people will get it. Like, it doesn't look cool aesthetically. So I just like flipped the ampersand around. And I love it because it's like, it's kind of open-ended. So it's like Fields and like whatever. So it's like Fields and you, or Fields and music, or Fields and love. So yeah, kind of like it lets the listener interpret what they're feeling when they listen, and kind of put their own value to it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's like a really powerful thing about music in general. Is like this, as a songwriter, we have what we want to say, what we think we're saying, but someone else can really just take it and run with it.
Yeah, that's huge.
So your name is like another way for someone to engage with your music in that way.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love it.
That's awesome. Let me think. So do you have any like new recorded music or any shows coming up that we can put out there?
Well, I'm playing tonight in Seattle.
Oh, cool.
So it might be a little late to promo that.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think. I've got some things that I'm working on booking. Nothing is confirmed yet. Bunch of stuff recorded. Actually, I recorded it, and then the hard drive that everything was on crashed. Dude. So, yeah, so that's really nice. So I could potentially invest a bunch of money and maybe get some stuff back, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm like going off, dude. That's the worst. Losing the hard drive.
Oh,
My band had the same exact thing happen. We spent like $1,000 to try to get it back and didn't get anything.
No,
dude, it sucks.
That's literally the worst.
Yeah. Got to back it up twice.
Yeah, I know.
To all musicians out there.
Yeah.
If you take anything away from this interview, it's back up your music.
Back up your hard drives, people.
Yeah. Cool.
Jeez.
Yeah, it sucked.
So yeah, I did do a session when I was in St. Louis this past week. Got a couple songs started with some buddies out there. They've got a studio, and so really stoked about that. I mean, I have literally dozens of songs written, and a bunch of them demoed out. So there'll be a record soon.
Cool. How do you go about like choosing what songs end up being an album?
Oh man. I pretty much demo all of them out or get like them pretty much produced, and then kind of listen to them in different orders to see which ones make me feel the way that I want to feel for that album. So yeah, it's hard because with the hard drive that crashed, that had a couple different albums on it, one for this one and one for the other kind of polished up band project. And I think I like had the order down for both of them, and I was like, okay, sweet. Like branding was almost done. I was like, okay, I'm gonna announce these soon. Like, So yeah, so I don't know. Like I think really like I'll pop everything into iTunes and then I'll kind of rearrange them in a playlist until I'm like, okay, like this flows really naturally and tells the story of, like what I was feeling when I was writing these or like what I want to convey to the listener. So yeah.
So it's like not necessarily like thought out beforehand. It's just you write the songs and then whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes when I'm writing the songs, a lot of them are like follow-ups to songs from other projects or like other songs that are already out. And so, yeah, so as I'm writing, like there's definitely an aspect of that comes out. Like, okay, how can I make this fit with other things that exist? So, yeah. Yeah.
Does that come out more in like the lyrical quality or just in the instrumentation and the production?
Yeah, I think lyrical for sure. Instrumentation as well. Like I'll use similar chord patterns to match different songs or contrast with different songs. And so yeah, it's really cool to kind of dive into that, and nobody ever like notices really, but that's kind of the point. I mean, people notice like, okay, lyrically, like you're saying something similar, or you're saying something that's like the opposite of this other song that's out, and so that's really cool when people notice that. Musically, I don't think people notice as much because the instrumentation is pretty different between songs. But yeah, I try to be pretty intentional about both, kind of keeping it. Everything's kind of a puzzle. So yeah, popping it together.
Yeah, that's super cool. Is there anything else you do artistically besides music, like drawing or writing or anything like that?
I try to do a lot of poetry, and so like that's just a way for me to express what I'm feeling in any moment, and it's a really good kind of emotional exercise. Especially like, I mean, when I first moved out here, I mean, I basically, I don't know, I wouldn't say I severed contact with a lot of people that I cared about, but I definitely like distanced myself physically from those people.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so a big way for me to like deal with that was kind of like processing it through writing. And so poetry was like kind of a natural way for me to do that.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Sounds like you're kind of able to, I don't know, turn those, I guess, negative emotions like, the loss of your friends into like something positive or like constructive. Would you say?
Yeah, for sure. And like I don't know that I'll ever publish those, but some of them turned into songs, and some of them, are just for me to go back and read and be emo about.
Nothing wrong with being emo.
That's the truth.
Yeah. Well, cool. I feel like that's a good place to stop.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed talking with you, and I'm excited to hear you play.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Cool.
I'm stoked.
Right. Peace out.
Rock and roll. Sweet.
Good stuff.